Hey.
Hello.
2 weeks
There's
too
a
late, but we're
guy
still.
with
Howdy.
blue behind you.
They wouldn't know. You can't see me, but I'm here, Bobby. I'm here with Mike and Ben and Jeff and Bob. How's everybody doing?
Hello.
Bueno.
Doing good. Hanging in there, recovering from a certain conference.
Yes,
Yes.
and I will let me be the first of many to give you guys big props. Golf clap. Job well done.
Thank you.
First one knocked out of the park, as everybody would expect from you guys, and was happy to be a little part of it. So it was good. It was
We
good.
appreciate you coming down. Yeah, I think it went relatively well. We definitely have some things that we want to change and do completely
Weather.
different for next time.
Yeah.
Like the weather. That could have been a little better.
Yeah.
We greased the weather guy, and we got to go take out some kneecaps because the vig we paid didn't do anything.
What's everybody been doing? I mean, we appreciate everybody coming back to listen to this debauchery 2 weeks later than anticipated. But gosh, what have you been up to?
I'm doing like a week on, week off of training, like for a week, off a week, for next couple months. I gotta pay for the cigars and golf balls somehow.
Understood.
Well,
Yeah.
you can keep putting them in the water. You could use them over and over again.
The cigars?
Don't tell anybody.
Why is he putting the
But they're
cigars in the water
clean.
for?
They're very clean.
He's talking
He's
about my
smoking
balls.
He's smoking balls and he's putting cigars in the water.
Balls.
Mm,
Those are the days.
those were the days.
Jay-Z, where you been, baby?
Just I've been actually kind of busy doing a number of classes for fire departments around here.
Awesome.
So that's fortunate. Yeah, and it's been fun. It's usually a slow time, but for some reason it's been busy, and weather's been perfect around here, so spending a lot of time outside.
Excellent. Ben, what are you up to?
Just doing some research, figuring out some projects, and more to follow, I suppose. Just trying to stay on the green side of the grass and 1 foot in front of the other and 3 feet in front of the sniper. Just gotta zig and zag.
So he doesn't
Good.
make a lead on you.
Me and Mike are just gearing up for a shitload of stuff that's coming in the door. So today was unwrapping presents, we'll say.
It's a lot of presents.
But not too much ado. We have a couple of more bombs to throw. I have one while we were talking offline.
Okay.
Something if we make it to it.
No. Let's do yours first.
All right. I heard from an unnamed source that I had to make some phone calls about this one because they were under the impression they're in a middle to small department, and they have hazmat technicians on paper, okay? And they said it's too expensive to train hazmat technicians, to take them offline, to get the backfill, to get the pay and all that other stuff, and you got to buy the equipment and all that stuff. So they said, if I train my hazmat operations level people
No.
with all the
damn it.
mission specific
Yours
competencies,
pisses me off more than mine.
then they could act as a technician.
No.
No.
This
I know
think I can
I
explain
know a
this.
department that does the same thing.
Oh.
I think
Yeah.
that what they're trying to do is like the conspiracy theory that the moon landing was filmed. Right.
Everybody
And
knows
I
that.
believe that. Just get out there. I am a conspiracy theorist. I think it was filmed. However, I think it was filmed by Stanley Kubrick, and he demanded it be filmed on location at the moon. And what I mean by that is, if you're going to take every mission-specific training, just take technician. Like, that's probably less hours. Like, it's easier to just do the right thing than to just piecemeal it together. Like.
But you know what? The other thing is that it's a order of magnitude, I will say, the difference between the JPRs of an ops level person versus a technician. The ops guy can perform tasks, but the technician interprets the readings. If I could summarize it, I think that's the right way to say it.
Yeah.
All right. It's like an EMT and a paramedic, okay, or even an EMT and a doctor. I'm gonna elevate us to the doctorate level. How about that? So you could give freaking epi to an EMT and do a standing order to do an auto injector in the leg, but they don't really understand what's happening, right? So you can't take an EMT and give them a bunch of training on auto injectors and then turn around and expect them to act as paramedics. And when you take mission specific information, which by the way, most of the mission specific shit that is taught is supposed to be under the guise of a technician, because operations aren't supposed to understand and dissect the scene. They haven't been trained to do that. They've been trained to do a specific task, like a monkey, right? Like I take a meter, I read the meter. What does the meter say? Meter says 10. Okay, great. Thanks for telling me what your meter readings are. Like that's the I'm going to do mission specific under I'm going to do decon, right? They're not learning decon. They're saying, "Hey monkey, here's a brush. Go back and forth or wipe here when I tell you to wipe here." There's no understanding to it. There's no science behind it. There's no reasoning behind it. Operations are if then statements. You get told what to do, you do a task. There's no understanding why the task. There's no developing chemical physical properties for the reasons that you're doing something. And there's no decision making in operations level training.
Yeah, it's SOP versus analysis.
Right. Not that I
Agreed.
feel strongly about it at all.
What are your thoughts, Jay-Z?
Well, I'd never heard of that. I think it's preposterous.
I like that. Preposterous. I love that word.
I don't, it's that typical of let's find a loophole to get around this area, and it's kind of like what Ben and Mike were saying. Why? I mean, why? That's just ridiculous.
Well, because a lot of them think that if they don't call themselves technicians, they don't have the liability if something goes to shit, which is completely wrong.
Well, I look at it this way: is that what happens when they start overstepping their bounds because they, their capes are, flying in the wind, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, I think I can get in that little A suit. I haven't. It's not a mission specific for ops level, but I think I can do it. And then you start. Then it starts shit in the bed. That's all it is. I think it's.
You still can't do anything beyond defensive operations. Right. So
and plus,
what's the point?
It specifically says they work under the guidance of a technician.
Right.
Like, that's crazy. Oh,
so
there's one right here. One of our city council members just suggested this to our fire chief today. By the way, the council member used to work with us.
Nice.
So,
is there a council member's name?
Is this the guy you're talking to?
Can I make some phone calls in the morning for this department? I would be glad to.
So I looked it up, and assuming that, and of course, the risks of AI, because that's the easiest one to look up without logging into NFPA. But there's 7, correct? Operations mission specifics.
I believe
7.
Sounds about right. Yeah. So personal protective equipment, mass decontamination, technical decontamination. This one will really help you on the hazmat team. Evidence preservation. That so many lives saved by evidence preservation. Not that it's unimportant, right? Product control, detection, monitoring, and sampling, and victim rescue. That's it. Like so if each one of those is a 4-hour course, I mean, how much are you actually going to get in 4 hours? 4 times 7, 28. Okay, make it an 8-hour course. And this, I think, will segue into what I know Mike's thing is, like, how much time are you going to invest in collecting all these mission specifics to get half the information only from the defensive side? Like, are you really saving any money in the long run?
No, and I don't even think you could legally operate as a technician under OSHA.
No, that goes with the whole thing of like, I'm a technician, but I don't have technician tools. So are you really a technician?
Like just an educated observer.
You're a patch wearing observer. Like at a certain, you need the gangster tools and the gangster patch to be a gangster. Like you can't just you can't wish the work.
Well, I know a department that has, it's a smaller department. They have technicians, they have technician equipment. They call themselves technicians, but they refuse to say they are a hazmat team because then it will cost money. And I'm like, explain that logic to me. And it basically falls down to then the chief, the way it was explained to me, the chief or chiefs would then have to buy into everything and fund a fully staffed team, or I shouldn't say fully staffed, fund a team. But yet, if they go to ammonia leak, they'll jump in a level A suit and go handle the leak. Like I don't even know if they do annual physicals. I don't know if they do any of the other required stuff.
For the chief that's saying yes to that, I think that's insanely liable.
I would agree.
And it's one of those things where you get away with it until you don't get away with it no more.
Right.
And when you talk to those chiefs, they're like, the fire department will indemnify me. They got my back.
Right.
50% of the time it works 100% of the time. It'd be like, go out and buy a bunch of needles and some medication, and I put it on the engine, and I say, yeah, we're ALS, we can, but we're not going to buy a cardiac monitor. We're just going to give drugs because
that fire department is driving down a road and they just go boom, boom. They're like, what was that? And that was the chief we just ran over.
The chief's running over himself if he's making the decisions.
I would hope that a chief would, because it sounds like, at least from John, it's coming from the city council. I would hope that the fire chief would straighten him out and go, look, you can't do that.
Legally.
You're insane. You don't know, because it comes from people that don't know anything about the fire department, perhaps.
Yeah, but here's the problem when you get to ranks that high, right? The chief of department can do that, but if the commissioner who works for the governor, the mayor's office or whoever it is, turns around and is like, this is what we're doing, and the chief's like, no, it's not what we're doing. The chief goes, okay, then the commissioner goes, well, I'm going to find a chief that's going to do it.
No, it's possible.
We had that happen with the asbestos in Manhattan.
Yep.
Where the mayor came down on the chief of department and it trickled down, and they were like, do this. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of what happened, but they were like, do this. and we were like, no, it's not a good thing. And we cannot legally do this. And they're like, and Phil McArdle was an eerily similar scenario that happened in Manhattan, and he was told that, and the commissioner and the captain was told to fire the guy, and it was a whole thing, remove him from the company. And when they went down to the chief of department's office, they were like, yeah, here it is, right in black and white, and he had all the dots done, and it was like, well, he's got us by the law, and that was it.
That's why Phil McArdle will always have a bigger set of balls than I ever will, because when push came to shove, I went, okay, fine, we'll do it. And he went, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an incredible story. Honestly, I might make it into a short and put it up on the internet, because it's something you have to hear. His story of how he pushed back against like the chief of the New York City Fire Department and won. It's a great story. You got to hear it.
Well, John said that he thinks he's a fucking nuts. I mean, that sounds like it's... Maybe he's gonna say something to him, like, dude, you're fucking nuts.
Well, John,
what the hell's the matter with you?
Send me an email. I will be more than happy to reach out to your representative and give them my 3 cents.
Sick of Mike.
I'll get Phil on that too, man. Phil will be coming up like a rabid pit bull.
So yeah. I'll take the other side. I'll play the devil's advocate here for the moment, just to keep the conversation interesting.
Hold on,
could you? Yeah, fair enough. Could someone try to make the claim and say, well, based on the number of hours, I could meet the OSHA requirement? Because one of the things I remember reading, and one of the reasons I'm a big fan of like the NFPA naming convention, if you will, for like hazmat PPE, because it's got structure, like a level A suit. I always joke that, the EPA and by extension OSHA, that they define hazmat suits the way that California defines weapons, right? Well, it looks like it has this feature. Right, but does it work? I don't know. It looks like this. It has this feature, and so like when you look at the OSHA requirements for like hazmat technician, and they could say, well, I got this many hours of this in these topic areas, but it doesn't really get into the specifics where like NFPA is like, you need to cover the following terms. A hazmat technician should be capable of identifying these things, where OSHA says, discuss hazmat terms. Right? And again, not saying that OSHA is bad, but like it was from a different era where they just assumed, I think, that everybody
Well,
would do the right thing.
no. So the OSHA is written like that on purpose, right? If you start to dive into laws and regulations, and actually this is something that I learned from Phil McCardle, very, very well. So OSHA is very broad based, right? And it's designed. Remember, so OSHA is law, right? So in order to change law, you have to go through Congress. You have to do all of these things. So with OSHA being very difficult to change, it is made extraordinarily broad on purpose.
That's
and
fair.
then it refers back then to standards. So the NFPA is then a consortium of us, right? The standard people in the community that come together and say, this is the level that things should be at. And as far as I'm concerned, NFPA does a pretty good job with 470 describing all the things that technicians need to know. The problem is that they're not actually adhered to in classes, which then comes to the question that I was going to bring up, because I was going to talk about what do you think the legitimacy of a 40-hour technician course is within the realm of emergency responders like us, like fire department emergency responders. I'm not talking about, in industry, but so it's not that, like OSHA was written so long ago, it doesn't care. OSHA was written on purpose to be able to refer back to a
live document.
A document that is written by people who know what they're doing, right? Because in reality, OSHA is not really written by people who know the specifics of that industry or that thing. And they just cover broad safety. We reflect back to the standards, which is by people who supposed to know what they're talking about and create, a standard for the community to uphold.
First of all, that's an interesting point, and I didn't think of it that way, because I know that they tried to do a rewrite last year or the year before, make something much more broad. I forget if someone told me it was like 600 pages, and I
Are you talking about OSHA?
Yeah, were they trying to rewrite something for the fire departments? I'll have to look it back up. My brain is a little scrambled at the moment, but I thought they had tried to rewrite something to basically take another bite at the apple, so to speak, on both firefighting and hazmat. Now I'm gonna have to look that up for someone in the comments that's a little less brain dead than me at the moment, but I'm pretty sure that they were taking public comment on that, and there was a lot of pushback because they're like, there's no way that small departments would have any chance if this becomes the law. Like, you're just going to shut down departments left and right, which leads back to your point.
Right, because the training becomes, because people want to do these shitty 40-hour classes, or they think the 40 hours is enough, or they don't understand enough to know, or they don't read 470 and go, how the hell are we supposed to fit all this into 40 hours? Right? There's absolutely, there's no way in hell that you can put 470 into 40 hours. There's just not. And the fact that that's not brought up, and the fact that NFPA, and the fact that you got people like Pro Board turning around and being like, yes, this is like, we're going to support this, like we're going to certify you. They are so full of shit, it's coming out their nose. There's there's no way that anybody, we do 40-hour classes for industry, and even then we're scratching to be like, there's not enough time. Like, let's go to 10-hour days. Maybe we should move this to 50. And we're talking about a couple of known chemicals that we go over and that we deal with, versus fire departments that have to take that all risk approach and understand all the hazards.
That's the thing is like when you go to industry and they say we can get away with a 40, and I hate to use the get away with, but they have known chemicals. Their unknown possibility is really kind of rare. I'll agree with them. They have a finite amount of chemicals. But if you're in the emergency services where you're going to go to unknowns, then can you seriously do it in 40 hours? Like, there is a ton of topics you need to get through.
Yeah, like fundamental stuff. Not even talking like coming out and being an expert, or, like having all the knowledge that you need for hazmat. That fundamental, like, you're going to go onto a team and you're not going to get somebody hurt on that team. Like, 40 hours is way too short.
And a lot of places, academies or whatever, so there's quite a few that do 80 hours, and that's still not even close to enough time.
I
We
think
do
the-
160 in Florida, and I'm telling you right now, we're pushing it. That's why we
Yeah.
call it the minimum standards of hazmat, because you're getting just enough shit to get somebody fucked up.
Just enough. I think 80 hours is the absolute bare minimum.
Yeah.
I would, and again, I'm saying this from a position of privilege, but I would say it's probably higher than that.
I would absolutely agree with you.
You know, if you want a competent, you know, you
Competent.
can always say, well, 1,000 hours is more gooder than 100 hours. It's like, yeah, but at a certain point, it's like, come on, that's luxury at its finest. I I would say, yeah, an 80 is the bottom. I would say, and we were just talking today to somebody that says we're doing 56, and that was luxurious in our region of the United States.
Right,
That is
meaning
luxury.
That's what the state push. Like the state pushes a 40-hour curriculum. The state pushes a 40-hour curriculum, and it's just so weird to me that we get such a variation. So you're saying that this state of whatever can do all of NFPA 470 with the JPRs and all that, and be pro board bullshit certified, while like a state like California is a 6 weeks. So are the people in California like dumber? Like, does it like, do they take longer to understand the information? Like,
They have more
what exactly-
carcinogens there.
They have more carcinogens without a shadow of a doubt. Now, I'm by no stretch, I have my issues with the California, program. There's definitely some stuff in there that could be cut back or changed, but 40 hours, like to the point that they're like, yeah, 6 days. I'm doing a 6-day class. Like, this is awesome. And I'm like, holy fuck.
Well, let's. So this comes into a little bit of some of the discussion I've had with people as to like, is hazmat like the fourth branch? And what I mean by that is, like, if you look at police, like, well, how long is a police academy? 40 hours cover a police academy? I think everyone agrees absolutely not. Do you want an EMT that's taking a 40-hour EMT class coming at you? Or a paramedic with 40 hours? No, absolutely not. How about just basic firefighting, like wet stuff? We joke about like wet stuff on red stuff. How long is that program, right? It's 100 for in Pennsylvania. I forget what it's been changed to. I think it's like 160 some hours.
I talked to a guy from Michigan, and it is a 240-hour class.
Right. So that's firefighting. That's, I mean, again, joking, like wet stuff, red stuff. And here you have 400 million chemicals, right, in the chemical abstract database. That's probably even small. There's probably more than that. And then you have all the possible containers. Like when you talked about like industry, well, I mean, we know the chemicals, but more than that, we know the containers that we get, and we know where they are. Like we can like know the enemy, we know what our building is, we know all that stuff. And then you go to the emergency response side, it's every possible container, every possible chemical, every possible combination. And then you got Dilbert in his trailer who is creating new stuff because he welded this container to that container. Like there's so many different things. I think that if you apply this to say, well, it's hazmat, like I said, it's part of the fire service now, but is it really? Like, do you feel you need to be a firefighter before you can be a hazmat tech, or can you go right to hazmat tech? And so if that's the case, well, then does the hazmat training start a little bit with the fire theory? I personally think it's at some point we're leaning towards it's a fourth service. It's people have to know this, just like you want the EMT, and your point very valid. Like, okay, I've stabbed you in the leg with some epi, but I don't really know what's actually going on inside other than to keep my thumb off the needle side. Like that doesn't take a lot of rocket science. I mean, cops now, at least in our area, I'm sure everywhere else, like Narcan, like they're not paramedics. Right. I mean, I'm sure they feel like it when they get that, that 6th dose of Narcan to the diabetic, but otherwise, like that's the things that I think that like again, every other profession in emergency services, if you said we're going to do a 40-hour class for picket, you want to be a beautician. You want to cut somebody's hair. Like that's like 1,600 hours or something ridiculous. And what's the worst that you do? You have to wind them up with a haircut like Bob or I, and be like, hey, it'll hopefully grow back. But meanwhile, I'm like, hey, that rail car next to the high rise of orphans, like, good luck. And everyone's like, 40 hours. Yeah, that's good. Good enough.
Especially when you consider, like, to your point, there are what, five phenomenal federal classes out there. Each one of those classes is a subject, and it is a week training in and of itself. Like Pueblo, Colorado is 4 different transportation classes, 2 with highway, 2 with rail, and that's a month's worth of training right there.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yep.
It's a good point. Honestly, now that I'm thinking about this, the hairdresser thing kind of got me in the gut right there, because I'm like, yeah, they don't let hairdressers touch your hair until they have like 1,000 hours.
Right.
That's insane.
What is the
insane.
real worst thing they can do?
Give me
Like,
a
oh, I
bald
screwed up, I
perm
gotta shave
again.
your
That's
head.
why
That's
I'm
it.
bald.
Could you imagine if there was a legitimate agency out there
Jay-Z's got a good perm guy.
getting
Jealous,
flattened
for
by the
sure.
headphones? Like, what do you think? Like, we've all created content and courses here. If I had to turn around and line by line give a spot in my 80-hour tech course, 40-hour tech course, 10-hour tech course, whatever the fuck it is that you're taking, line by line, and say, where is this talked about in your lecture? And I broke down NFPA. Do you really think you're getting could you really find a spot for all of that information in 40 hours and do JPRs and do a midterm and do a
Yeah.
final?
You know how it would be? All right, there's containers out there. They're glass, they're cardboard, they're metal. All right, moving on. There's drums, there's round, there's square, there's that's it.
I know.
Either that,
would
or
be
you need to hire an auctioneer to teach the class.
Yeah, it would be a strobe show. If people have seizures in the crowd, they'd be having seizures for how fast you're flipping slides.
Well, I have seen the 40-hour training in a certain state that ends with starts with a T and ends with an X's.
Mhm.
And I think there's a certain agency that has a stranglehold over that whole state, and I think they started that. And Texas is a 40-hour hazmat state, and everybody gets their training from a certain agency.
Because it's free.
However, well, somebody's paying for it.
Yeah.
Tax
However,
dollars at work.
It's basically a get them in, get them out. Train them to what's going to be on the test, because we're
It's a
not sure
machine.
what's going to be on the test, because there's 10,000 questions. We're not sure what's going to be on there.
No,
And
there's
then-
no way,
and then you
Jay-Z,
get
there's no way
and then
that's
you get a
true, because
failure-
Pro Board makes it so that you cannot teach to the test. So what you're saying doesn't add up at all.
That would mean Pro Board would not be relevant.
Yeah, and you get a failure rate of anywhere between 30 to 60%, because the people are just, their heads are spinning, and they're just going. I mean, I used to work for industry over there in California, Texas, and they would send them over there, and they'd send 20 people over there, and they'd come back, and 12 of them are like, we failed. And then they're like, I don't want to take the tests again, because I don't want to fail it again. And then
Right.
you look at the industry, and you go, okay, what are these people right here that just went through 40 hours of training? Are they hazmat technicians, or are they not? And they go, we don't know. And you're like, what do you mean you don't know? And they go, we don't know. And it's like, okay, are you just going to let them be? Because they're emergency response technicians. They're employees that work in emergency response. Now they're in limbo, and they pay for them, because they actually pay for them. And they're like, yeah, we don't know what to do now. It's insane,
I think we should. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just don't know why there's this big stranglehold over Texas, at least in the Texas area. Why that big stranglehold is over that, and why everybody wants that certain stamp.
I can promise you, it's not just Texas. I mean, if I were able to fight to get rid of the 40-hour tech course, I think I would be shooting myself in the foot, because I cannot tell you how many classes in the Midwest and in the South that we end up going and teaching because we are redoing foundational work. So they took the 40-hour tech course. They realize that they don't really understand that much. And then we come in and we give them 40 hours and it's chemical physical properties, metering, and scenarios.
And they
And
look at you like, I've never heard this before.
right.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it like that. Well, what do you mean? Like, I'm teaching you basic stuff. Like, all we basically did was take the chemical physical properties out of our technician class and we're reteaching it to you. What do you mean you've never seen this shit before? Like, this is base level stuff, but they don't and they haven't. And I mean, it is, it keeps food on the plate over here, but man, I would love to see the 40-hour getting rid of.
Let's
Yeah.
start a crusade.
I think we need to treat hazmat tech now the same way that states treat driver's licenses. Like, you get the basic license and you flip it over. And it's like, what are your endorsements and what are your restrictions? Yo, you had a 40-hour hazmat? Awesome. You can do A kits, B kits, and C kits, but you can't do any of this stuff. You're not endorsed for it.
But
Like, you want to do that? Go take another endorsement. Go take another class.
but you don't even know what they actually learned.
Right.
And that's the whole thing, right? You get this certification, you're certified under this agency, but yet you have no idea what they're actually proficient in, because it's all nonsense. Like, you can't run 470 in 40 hours. You just can't. So you're either skimming across all of the information and they know nothing, or you're going deep in a few things and they have no knowledge of other stuff. It is your only two choices.
That's a good
So
point.
let me ask you this question. If you have a fire department that does fuel spills and gas emergencies, are they ops or are they tech?
Are they getting intimate with the product?
Yeah, it comes
Pinching
down
off-
to defensive or offense.
Pinching off lines and, let's say, plugging dike and whatever for fuel
That's
leaks.
offensive stuff. That's technician level.
Right. But there's departments out there that are going, oh, I'm doing mission specific. I'm just going to take this one, and we're just going to do those. Then does it
Do
cost
they
me
have
as
any
much?
technicians?
Because
they might be able to get around it if they're working under the supervision of a technician.
I will say they probably did years ago, but probably not anymore.
Because if a technician is not on scene, because there was a big thing about this with the chief, who's in charge of a fire when the chief is on the road. It's not the chief. It's whoever's on the scene. So if it's the captain, the lieutenant, whoever's there is. So the chief can say, well, give me another 1-on-1. If the captain that's on the scene relays that, it's their call to courtesy to the chief. But the guy that's on scene is technically by NIMS the boss until somebody pulls up and pops the brake.
Right.
So like,
That could be
if
a
there's
goddamn probie.
if there's no technician on scene, I think you would have a hard argument to say, oh, well, mission specific, because I'm pretty sure, and I got to look it up because I know I should probably know this, but I think you have to be working under the direct supervision
of
a
a technician.
technician to do those things. So interesting. I have a great idea. I don't know if it's I think it's a great idea. I don't know if it's a good idea.
What's the idea?
But it might be worth. No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
It might be something good to watch the movie, and we'll do like a mystery science theater type thing, and we'll watch the expose of what I have an idea of. This is going to be eminently entertaining. So
That would be fun.
Yeah,
Well,
I have an idea.
The only reason that these are allowed to work is because we allow AHJs to be able to accept the fact that it works. So, if you're a paid department, then you have a union that is supposed to be representing you, and you should be having that union make a stink that this isn't enough. And there's more than enough legal precedent out there to be able to prove your point. There's more than enough people that are willing to help construct an argument. And there are people out there like Phil McCardle that have a broad and deep knowledge of laws and regulations who could absolutely help you out. And who knows, maybe we'll see if Phil will come on next show and just,
I'm sure. I'll offer him some cookies.
And rip into this.
He likes the warm cookies.
I come to think of it, I don't know if they have a standard for like rope rescue. If for us, it's technical rescue technician, but I don't know if they have a standard for that in terms of how many hours they go through. And that's just as important because you're hanging from a rope.
Well, the
So
problem is most of the standards don't talk about time. They talk about information that needs to be taught. And like Bob said, right? Well, just, okay, what this is a box, this is a container, this is a carboy, this is a tote. Like, they're fine with that as long as, and there's nobody that actually legitimately certifies that information. So as long as you're okay, hoping that nobody gets hurt and drags you into court, because that's where you prove whether or not your class is legit, is in court after an incident has already happened and somebody goes, well, wait, I don't remember learning that in class. And then you get pulled to court and they say, show us where you taught this.
Right.
Beyond that, it doesn't exist.
So for all you guys out there that are teaching, if you don't have an instructor guide, yeah, good stuff, man. Well, it was good. I think we're gonna continue this one. I'm curious to see if we can bring on an old filibuster, and see
That'd be cool.
if he can
Well-
enlighten us a little more, because he goes honestly back to the beginning of when OSHA was written. So it might be
Wow.
good to go back to the the genesis, when dinosaurs, and then the earth cooled, and then
First,
Phil
they were
came, and then
dinosaurs.
OSHA came.
I'd like to see if there's anybody that listens to us that has a 40-hour class and see what they think about it. Get their thoughts on it.
I guarantee you they do, because there's tons of fans that are out there that we go and they teach. They've all done the 40-hour courses, and I'm telling you, it's so much more, popular than I think we give it credit for. So much more popular.
I'm gonna
Federally,
bet-
there is a part of the national, consortium of schools. There is a 40-hour hazmat
Oh,
program
yeah.
that your tax dollars pay for. That
Oh,
a
yeah.
ton of people, they just go
Ton.
down there, take your
There's-
class. That's the easiest way to do it, because we don't have to worry about finding a bunch of guys that want to take a class. There's a million
Right.
of them sign up.
Well, I think there's like Cersei, Teeks, and freaking Aniston, right? Like they all
Mhm.
do a nonsense 40-hour program.
We'll see where it came from. I think with that, anybody want to announce anything or anything? Anybody pregnant? Nobody?
I look it.
I will say this: if you still have not subscribed to any of the conferences,
Oh,
make sure you go to the link that you saw this show on. Right above it is the link for the forums, and you have to submit your little survey and whatnot, because there's still a few scholarships coming up. Michigan, New England, Baltimore, probably missing one. I think Cold Zone. So there's stuff out there. So if you guys want a little bit of cheese, as Bobby likes to say, make sure you get into that link and fill out the form.
yeah, get in there, kid.
Quick correction: Cersei is an 80-hour program. That makes me happier.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you,
good
guys.
stuff. All right. Well, we'll see you next Tuesday. Not really. Back to the normal schedule.
Two Tuesdays.
2 Tuesdays, and we'll see what we can do. See what more carnage we can make. So
Love it.
we'll see you out there. Goodbye.